Hello everyone, welcome back to Knowledge Bytes. In today's episode, we are going to explore one of the most valuable skills in the world of artificial intelligence, that is prompt engineering. Whether you are using ChatGPT, Amazon Bedrock, or Claude, Gemini, or any other generative AI tools, the quality of your prompt directly influences the quality of your response you receive, right? So think of prompting as having a conversation with an expert. If your question is vague, you will likely to get a vague answer. But if your question is very clear, specific, and provide enough context, you will receive a much more useful response. Prompt engineering isn't just for AI developers anymore. It's becoming an essential skill for cloud engineers, software developers, business analysts, students, content creator, and anyone who wants to work more effectively with the AI. In this episode, you will learn what prompt engineering is, why it is matters, different prompting techniques and practical examples, and best practices. We will also solve the AWS AI Practitioner style questions to reinforce your understandings. So let's get started. Right. So before learning advanced prompting techniques, let's first understand what prompt engineering actually means. Right. So prompt engineering is the process of designing clear and effective instructions that helps an AI model to generate accurate and relevant and useful responses. A prompt can be a question or instruction or even a detailed scenario that guides the AI towards the desired output. So let's look at the simple example. Imagine you are asking an AI explain Amazon S3, right? While this prompt is valid, it doesn't tell the AI who the audience is, how detailed the explanation should be, or what format you expect. Now consider a better prompt. Act as an AWS instructor and explain Amazon S3 to beginner using simple language and a comparison table, right? So let's see this example, right? Okay, so let's see this example. Now, yeah, let's look at this one. I'm just going to explain you through the example. So now see, I'm just opening the AI, and I would like to take this simple question where we talking that I just took the new prompt, the chart window. I'm just giving that explain Amazon S3, right? Just simple term. So when I hit enter, you will get, see, look at this one, Amazon S3 simple storage, and you got the some information, right? And the key concepts are these are the key concepts which is giving that. So the bucket is containing storage and everything, right? So if you look at that key concepts, the objects, buckets, objects, and keys, so whatever the information it is giving that. So now let's see in other way how it is generated with the better prompt. So the same, I'm going to take one more new chart window with the desired the prompt with the better prompt. Let's take one more window, and I'm just taking this and hitting enter. Let's take. So now act as an AWS instructor and explaining Amazon S3 to a beginners using simple language and comparison table. See, look at this, how it is generated. Think of Amazon S3 simple storage service as again, right? So, and a simple analog. See how it is defined this own warehouse. See the simple way, and also it is comparing with this concept, simple explanation, real life examples, S3 where we are going to use the S3 and the bucket and object, key, region. So how S3 works, the simple way, right? So why people use the Amazon S3 and important features, what are the features are part of this, and S3 storage classes, look at this one, and security in S3, what are the security and common operations, right? And real world examples. So, and advanced and advantages and the limitations and key terms to remember. See bigness summary. So this is where you can understand the what S3 is as a beginner. So you will understand the basic concept, right? If you go back to the previous chart where we had that previous chart. So look at this. So look at this. See how it has given based on, so we did not provide anything, explain, just we gave the prompt saying that okay, explain Amazon S3. So meaning, so it just gave the complete picture, right? Okay, the second prompt gives the AI more directions by defining the role, audience, roles, audience, and output format, right? So as a result, the response is much more structured and useful. That's the essence of the prompt engineering, providing the AI with enough guidance to understand exactly what you need, right? So now that we understand what prompt engineering is, let's see why it's becoming such an important skill. Let's get into that. So prompt engineering is much more than writing better questions. It's about communicating effective with AI. A well-crafted prompt can significantly improve the quality of AI-generated response, right? So it helps produce more accurate answers because the AI understands your intent more clearly. It saves time by reducing the need for multiple the follow-up questions. It provides better context, allowing the AI to generate the responses, right? So, and the same way, well-designed prompts also lead to greater consistency, and especially when generating the reports, summaries, or code or documentation. Another important benefit is reducing hallucinations, right? So while prompting can't eliminate incorrect A responses completely, providing sufficient context and clear constraints can greatly reduce the chances of misleading information. Ultimately, prompt engineering acts as the bridge between the human intent and AI, the intelligence, right? So I now remember, but have you ever wondered what actually happens after you submit a prompt? Let's take a quick look behind the scenes, right? So although AI appears to understand language like human do, the process is very different. Everything begins with your prompt. Before the AI can understand your request, it first converts your text into smaller pieces called tokens. These tokens are processed by the large language model, which analyzes the relationship between the words using a mechanism called attention. We learned this one, right, in previous episode. Rather than memorizing complete answers, the model predicts the next most likely token based on everything you are given, right, or you are written, right? This prediction process repeats rapidly until the complete response is generated. This entire sequence happens in a just few seconds, creating the illusion of a natural conversation. Understanding this process explains why providing clear context is so important. The better you prompt, the most effective model can predict the response you are looking for, right? Since prompts play such an important role, let's learn what makes a great prompt. Let's get into that. So now a professional prompt isn't just a single sentence. It's made up of several key components that guides the AI, right? So the first component is the role. Tell the AI who it should act as. For example, as an AWS solution architecture, or a technical trainer, or a teacher, or a marketing consultant, right? So next comes the task. Clearly describes what you want the AI to do. Then provide context, explain the background information, target audience, or business scenario so that AI can understand the bigger picture. After that, define any constraints such as like response length or tone, whether it is a polite or with a different tones, right? And limitations. So finally, especially specify the output format, whether you need a table or bullet points or JSON or markdown or step-by-step explanation. Tell the AI exactly how would like the response presented. When these five elements are combined, the AI has everything it needed to generate much higher quality answers, right? No, okay. To make this even easier, here's a simple framework that every beginner should remember. That's where the framework, the RTF framework. One of the easiest way to improve your prompts is by using this RTF framework. So R stands for role. Tell the AI who it should be. T stands for task. Clearly explain that you want the AI to accomplish. Right? F stands for format. Specify how you want the answers to be presented. Let's see an example. Instead of saying the same way, the same example which we took the last the in the demo, let's just same example. Explain the scenes. Just we given this right. So explain Amazon S3. Try act as an AWS trainer. That's a role. Explain Amazon S3 to a beginner. The context, right? And present the differences between the S3 standards and Glacier in a comparison table. Notice how much more specific request becomes. This simple three-step frameworks can dramatically improve the quality of AI responses, especially for beginners who are just starting with prompt engineering, right? As you gain more experiences, you can expand this simple framework into a professional prompt structure. Let's get into the next one is the how we can make it a blueprint, right? Think of a prompt blueprint as an upgraded version of RTF framework. Professional prompts usually include 6 key components. The first, assign a role. Next, define the task. Then provide detailed context. Add any constraints such as word limits or tone or formatting rules. Specify the output format. And finally, if needed, include one or more examples to demonstrate exactly what you expect, right? This structured approach is widely used by engineers or consultants or AI professionals because it's consistently produces better results. In many real-world projects, spending an extra minutes crafting a better prompt can save hours of editing later, isn't it? Now that we know how to structure prompt, let's explore the different types of prompts we can create. Let's get into that. So now the types of prompts, right? So not every prompt serves the same purpose, right? So every prompt has a different purpose. Different tasks require different the prompt styles. A question prompt is used when you simply want a information or an explanation, right? So an instruction prompt asks the AI to perform a specific task. We are giving the instruction such as summarizing a document or writing the code or asking to create an image, right? It's an instruction. A role prompt assigned a particular identity to a AI such as teacher, architecture, recruiter. We are giving such a role. Based on the role, it will act as a role. Coding prompts assist developers with writing, debugging, or explaining code, right? So the same. So creative prompts are commonly used for storytelling or marketing or content generation. Our summarization prompts condense lengthy documents into the concise takeaways, right? So translation prompts can convert text between the language while preserving the meaning, right? Finally, the analytical prompts helps compare the options, evaluate data, and generate insights. Understanding these prompt categories helps you choose the right approach for your specific task. But there is another important concept that often gets confused with the prompt types, prompting techniques. Let's explore those next. So what is prompt? Now we learn the prompt types. We are going to learn the prompting techniques, right? So prompt types describes what you are asking the AI to do. Remember this. prompting techniques describes how you guide the AI to produce better results. That's a difference. The difference techniques are suitable for different scenarios, right? So zero, let's say the first one. Zero shot prompting works well when the AI can answer using its existing knowledge. One shot prompting teaches the AI with a single example. Few shot prompting provides a multiple example so the AI can recognize the patterns. Chain of thought prompting encourages the AI to reason through complex problems step by step. Persona prompting changes the AI perspective by assigning it a professional role. Finally, iterative prompting improves results by refining prompts over multiple interactions. In the next several slides, we will examine each of these techniques in details, beginning with the simple one. Right? Let's start with the foundation of prompt engineering, that is the zero-shot prompting. Right? Let's get into that. Zero-shot prompting is the simplest prompting technique. In the AP, in this approach, you ask the AI a question without providing any example. The model relies entirely on the knowledge it learned during the training to generate a response, because we are not giving any example. For example, let's say I explain Amazon S3 in a simple term. That's where we used in the demo, right? So it's simple. We are not giving an example or any comparison, anything, the structure. The AI already understands what Amazon S3 is and can generate an answer without needing additional guidance because it's based on the knowledge it will generate. Zero-shot prompting works well for the general knowledge, definitions or explanations or brainstorming or simple coding questions. However, because no examples are provided, the response may not always match exact format style you are expecting. That's why for more structured tasks, we often move beyond the zero-shot prompting and starts providing the examples. We have learned about the zero-shot prompting, where the AI answers a question without seeing an example. But what if we want the AI to follow a specific format or writing style? That's where one-shot prompting becomes useful. In one-shot prompting, we provide the AI with one example before asking it to perform the actual task. Think of it as a showing someone a sample before asking them to complete similar work. Let's look at the example on the screen, right? So we tell the AI English, hello, French, right? French, it's a bonjour, right? So then we ask English, thank you, then French, what is? So it is understand because we have already shown one example. The AI understands the expected patterns and response with a mercy, right? So this technique is extremely useful when you want consistent formatting or structured responses or specific writing styles, right? So one-shot prompting works particularly well for the classification tasks or translations or simple data formatting or template generations. Remember, one example can significantly improve consistency, right? So, but what if one example isn't enough? What if we want, say, AI to recognize the more complex patterns? Now let's get into the next one. This brings us to one of the most powerful prompt engineering techniques, that is a few-shot prompting technique. Instead of giving AI one example, we provide multiple examples. By observing several examples, the AI can identify patterns much more accurately. Let's look at this example shows on the screen, right? Excellent equals positive, poor equals negative, amazing equals positive, terrible equals negative. Then we ask fantastic equals. The AI immediately recognizes the pattern and predicts the positive. Few-shot prompting is commonly used in the sentiment analysis or document classification, information extractions, or customer support automations, and many enterprises AI applications. In fact, this is one of the most widely used prompting technique in production AI systems, right? So because it produces much more consistent and reliable results than the prompting techniques. Whenever you need a AI to follow a specific patterns, or consider using few shot prompting. Like so far, we have learned techniques that helps AI recognize the patterns. Now let's explore a technique designed for solving complex reasoning problems. Now let's get into that. So some problems requires more than a direct answer. They requires reasoning. This is where the chain of thought prompting becomes valuable. Instead of asking only for the final answers, we ask the AI to explain the solution step by step. Consider the AWS example shows on the screen. A company stores 500 gigabytes of data in an Amazon S3. Storage grows by 20% every month. Rather than simply asking for the final storage requirements after 3 months, we ask the AI to show each calculations before giving the final answer. The AI calculates month 1, then month 2, then month 3. Finally, the represents the answer. The techniques makes responses easier to understand and easier to verify. It's especially useful for mathematics, cloud architecture, or programming, or troubleshooting, financial analysis, or business decision makings. One important point to remember: instead of asking the AI to reveal its internal reasoning, ask it to provide step-by-step explanation or solution. This approach is both practical and aligned with how modern AI assistants are designed to help users. Right? Sometimes solving the problems is it not enough. We also wanted AI to think like a particular professor, or particular role, particular architecture, or particular professional, right? So now let's get into that personal persona prompting. Imagine asking the same question to five different experts. A teacher would explain it differently from a software engineer. A recruiter would answer differently from a cloud architecture, right? So, and that's exactly what persona prompting allows us to do. Persona prompting tells AI to assume a specific role before generating the response. For example, act as an AWS solution architect, or act as a technical recruiter, or act as a teacher, or act as a cybersecurity consultant. Right? Even though underlying AI model remains the same, the responses becomes much more specialized because the AI adapts its tone, terminology, and recommendations based on the assigned role. This technique is extremely valuable for interview preparations, or architecture design, or code review, or business consulting, or education, or professional communications. Right? Before asking your next question, think about who wants AI to become. Right? So that small change can dramatically improve the quality of the response. Even experienced prompt engineers rarely get perfect results on this first attempt, right? Instead, they improve prompts step by step. Now, what is that? So, prompt engineering is rarely a one step activity, it's an iterative process. Let's say we begin with a simple prompt: explain Amazon EC2. The response is useful, but perhaps it's too technical. So we refine the prompt: explain Amazon EC2 for beginners. That's better. So now let's improve it further. Compare Amazon EC2 with AWS Lambda using a table and include real-world examples. Notice that what happens. Instead of just replacing the provision prompt, previous prompts, completely. So we gradually improved it until they receive the response we wanted. This is called iterative prompting. Professional AI users rarely stop after the first response. They continue refining prompts until the output perfectly matches their requirements. Think of prompt engineering as a conversation rather than a single question. So, we have now explored 6 prompting techniques. Let's compare them side by side, right? So, now let's look at this. So, how we learn. So we learn the zero shot prompting technique, one shot prompting technique, few shot prompting technique, chain of thought, and persona or iterative, right? So let's look at them. Let's quickly summarize everything we have learned. Zero shot prompting requires no examples. It's ideal for general questions or simple tasks. One shot prompting provides a single example to establish the desired format. Few-shot prompting provides multiple examples, making it ideal for pattern recognition and classification. Or chain of thought prompting works best when solving complex reasonings or calculating problems. Persona prompting changes the AI perspective by assigning it is a professional role. Iterative prompting focuses on refining the prompts until the desired output is achieved. There isn't one technique that's better than the others. The best technique depends entirely on the problem you are trying to solve. As you gain experience, you will naturally combine multiple techniques in a single prompt. Right? Now that we have learned the theory, let's see prompt engineering in actions. Right? So now this is one of the most important demonstrations in today's episode. We will ask AI the same questions 3 different ways, right? First, the poor prompt. Explain Amazon S3. The AI provides a correct answer, right? So, but it's generic. Next, we improve the prompt. Explain Amazon S3 for beginners. Now the AI adapts its explanation for the beginner's audience. Finally, let's write the professional prompt, like act as an AWS Certified Trainer. Explain Amazon S3 to beginners preparing for AWS AI Practitioner certifications. So use simple language. So this is where we can ask this one. So include 5 key features. Compare Amazon S3 with Amazon EBS, or present everything in a table, right? So let's look at this one. So notice how dramatically response improves. So AI now understand the role, audience, objectives, and structure and level of details. This demonstration by prompt engineering is such a valuable skill. Better prompts produce better responses. Now let's get into the demo. So now I'm just taking, as we discussed, now I'm taking just one sentence, which is explain Amazon S3. So now I'm just taking one sentence without any examples and any details, right? So let's see how it is get generated. See, look at this one. When I say explain Amazon S3, it is giving the details. What it's based on it. It's a knowledge which the ChatGPT got trained, right? So that's how you can see look at this, the patterns, how it got generated, how is 3 and all. So now we can get into the different way. So just remember key features, common use cases are storage classes, right? The security examples it is given, right? So now the same in the prompt we will ask that, okay, so they explain Amazon S3 for the beginners, for a beginners. The same we are asking, we are just appending, we are adding for the beginners sentence, right? So how it will generate the response? Let's look at this one. It is made the simple, right? So it's made the very simple. Your how the beginner can understand how to if how the prompt. I mean, when the beginners can read it, how we can understand this one. Very simple structure, right? See this one. So why do people use the S3? First of all, it started with why needs the S3, right? So what can you store, which type of, it's a basic things, how you will store, and why is S3 is popular, a real world examples, and where does S3 fit in AWS, right? So the beginner's way, so if you look at this first where we asked for the simple question, the explain Amazon S3, then it is given the high level architecture, right? How S3 works and the key features, common the use cases, storage classes and everything. But when you ask with the for the beginners, then it is try to explain that okay, it's a basic things, where it is useful and how it is useful, what kind of the files we can store it, right? Let's make it one more, the third, we are just adding act as an AWS certified trainer. So right, we are adding the role, right? Look at this one, so we are completely giving, so now we are adding more, we are adding the role, and we are adding the context where beginner. So who is he? So he is a beginner, AWS, he is preparing for the AWS AI practitioner certification. And use simple language, we are specifying, we are giving the instructions, right? Saying that okay, use the simple language, include 5 key features, we are giving one more instruction saying that okay, include 5 key features, compare Amazon S3 with Amazon EBS, we are giving one more instruction, comparison, right? Present everything in a table, this is one where instruction we are giving, it's a response format, right? Let's see how it gets generated, right? Look at this one, Amazon S3, it's very simple, right? So how, what is S3 and what can you store? See, look at this one, S3 and images, and what it can store, images, videos, documents, how does it recognize the organize the data? See, look at this one, how it is very beautiful, right? Why it is important for the AWS AI practitioner exams, and 5 key features of Amazon S3. See, look at this one, it's the ultimate, it's the unlimited scalability, right? And high durability, high availability, right? So strong security and multiple storage classes. See how it is very, how it made the simple way, simplest way, right? See, it's compare the Amazon S3 versus Amazon EBS, right? It's a comparing so that users, the beginners can understand it's a very thoroughly and the easy way to, right? See, and AWS AI practitioner exam tips also it's given, so that's where the difference, that's where the prompting techniques are useful, that's where the importance for the prompting, right? So how better you make the prompt, you will get the better results. Now that we have explored different prompting techniques, let's discuss something equally important that makes that prevent AI from the delivering great results, right? So one of the biggest mistakes beginners makes it writing vague the prompts. For example, asking, "Tell me about AWS." This is too broad. The AI doesn't know whether you are interested in cloud computing or certification or applications or storage services or pricing or architectures, right? So another common mistake is not providing the enough context. Imagine asking someone to write a report without explaining the audience or objective. The results would likely miss the mark, right? The same applies to the AI. The third mistake is asking multiple unrelated questions in a single prompt. For example, explain Amazon EC2, compare it with a Lambda, write Python code, right? And tell me about Kubernetes. That's lot to ask in a one request. Breaking complex tasks into smaller prompts usually produce much better results. Another common issue is not specifying the desired output format. If you need a table, ask for a table. If you need bullet points, mention that explicitly. Finally, one of the most important reminder, never assume AI is always correct. AI can occasionally produce inaccurate or outdated information. Always review and validate important responses before using them in real world situations. Prompt engineering is not only about asking better questions, it's also about reviewing better results. Now that we know what to avoid, let's learn the habits that experienced prompt engineering follow every day. Right? Best practices for effective prompting. Let's get into that. Great prompt engineer follow a few simple but powerful best practices. The first is the be specific. Instead of saying explain networking, or try explain VPC networking in AWS for beginners using simple language and diagrams. Next, provide context. Tell the AI who the audience is, what you are trying to achieve, and any relevant background information. Another best practice is to assign a role. For example, right? So act as an AWS certified instructor or act as a software architecture. This changes the style and depth of the response. You should also define the output format. Whether you wanted a comparison table or JSON or Markdown or a checklist or bullet points, let the AI know. Don't forget to include constraints such as response length or tone or scope. And perhaps the most valuable advice, treat prompting as an iterative process. Rarely does the first prompt produce the perfect answer. Keep refining until the output matches with your expectations. Finally, always review the generated content before using it in business or education or healthcare or finance or any critical domains, right? Let's how bring all these ideas together into a simple workflow that professionals use. Prompt engineering process. Professional prompt engineering isn't about trying random questions into ChatGPT, right? It's a structured process. Step one is to clearly identify your goal. Ask yourself, what what do I actually want AI to accomplish? Step two is to gather the necessary context. Think about the audience, business scenarios, or technical requirements and expected outcome. Step three is to write the prompt using the framework we have learned today. Start with a role, define the task, add context, include constraints, specify the output format. Step 4 is evaluation. Review this AI's response. Did it answer your question? Was anything missing? Finally, refine the prompt if needed. Prompt engineering is an iterative cycle of writing, evaluating and improving the responses. The more you practice this process, the better your AI interactions become, isn't it? So once you have mastered the basics, you can begin combining techniques for even more powerful prompts. All right. So let's get into the now. So by now you have learned the core techniques every beginner should know. As you become more experienced, you will often combine multiple techniques within the same prompt. For example, you might start with a persona prompt by asking the AI act as an AWS solution architect. Then use the few short prompting by providing 2 or 3 examples of desired output. Right. Finally, ask the step-by-step solutions to explain the recommendations. Instead of thinking about these techniques individually, start viewing them as a building block that can be combined depending on the problem you are solving. Right. The goal isn't a memory techniques. The goal isn't to memorize techniques. The goal is to choose the right combination for the task at the hand. As your experience grows, you will naturally develop your own prompting style. But even experienced prompt engineering doesn't stop after receiving the first response. One of the biggest difference between beginners and experienced AI users is what happens after AI response. Beginners often accept the first answer. Professionals evaluate it. Ask yourself, was the response correct, accurate? Did it answer the question completely? Was the level of detail appropriate? Could the formatting be improved? Or if the answer isn't exactly what you need, don't start over, right? So improve the prompt, add more context, clarify your objective, specify a different output format, right? Or ask follow-up questions. Think of prompt engineering as having a conversation rather than asking a single question. Every refinement moves the AI closer to the ideal response. This continuous improvement process is one of the most valuable prompt engineering skills. Right? So now, even with good prompts, you may occasionally receive responses that aren't quite right. Right? So now, let's understand the troubleshooting, how we are going to troubleshoot that. Let's look at some common problems and how to fix them. If the response is too generic, provide the more context. If it's too long, specify a word limit. If it's too technical, ask the AI to explain the topic for beginners. If the formatting isn't what you expected, explicitly request bullet points or table or numbered steps. Right? If the AI misunderstands your question, rewrite the prompt rather than simply repeating it. Small changes in the wording often produce dramatically better responses. Don't think of weak prompts as failures. Think of them as opportunities to improve communication with AI. Prompt engineering is a skill, and like any skills, it improves with practice. Before we move on to the final challenge and AWS certification questions, let's summarize everything we have learned so far, right? So now, throughout this episode, we have covered a lot of information. So here's a simple cheat sheet, right? So you can remember whenever you are writing prompts, start with the RTF framework, assign a role, clearly define the task, specify the desired format, then enhance your prompt by adding context, constraints, and example whenever needed. Choose the appropriate prompting technique. Zero shot for simple questions, one shot and few shots for learning patterns, persona prompting for expert perspectives, step-by-step prompting for complex reason, iterative prompting for continuous improvement. Finally, always review the AI's response and refine your prompt if necessary. Prompt engineering isn't about writing the longest prompt, it's about writing the right prompt. If you remember this cheat sheet, you will already be ahead of most new AI users. We have covered a lot of concepts in this episode. Now it's time for a quick challenge. Let's see if you can identify the better prompt. On the screen, you will see two prompts. So prompt A says explain Amazon EC2 and prompt B says act as an AWS certified trainer. Explain Amazon EC2 to a beginner preparing for the AWS AI Practitioner certification. Compare it with AWS Lambda using a table and include one real world example. Take a few seconds and think about it. Which prompt is likely to produce the better response, right? So if you select prompt B, you are absolutely right. Let's understand why. Prompt B assign a role. It clearly defines the task. It provides context by mentoring the target audience. Right? It specifies the output format by requesting a comparison table. It even asks for a real-world example, making the response more practical. This is prompt engineering in action. Instead of expecting AI to guess what we need, we provide clear guidance. Remember this simple principle. The quality of the prompt directly influences the quality of the response. Now let's test your knowledge with a few realistic AWS Certified AI Practitioner style questions. Right? So now, so the question number is the first question. These questions are designed in a style similar to what you might encounter in a AWS Certified AI Practitioner exam. Read each question carefully and try to answer before I reveal the explanation. Right. So question number one: a developer asks an AI model, act as an AWS solution architect and explain Amazon S3 for beginners using a comparison table. Which prompt engineering principle is primarily being applied? A. Zero-shot prompting. B. Persona prompting. C. Few-shot prompting. D. Chain of thought prompting. Right? The question 2. Right? So an AI model is provides the 3 examples of positive and negative customer review before classifying a new review. Which prompting technique is being used? A user asks the AI to solve a cloud cost optimization problem by explaining each calculation before providing the final recommendation. Which prompting technique best describes this approach? Question 4. A prompt engineering receives a good response from an AI model but wants additional details and better formatting. What should they do next? Then question 5. Which prompt engineering framework introduced in this episode is the simplest for beginners to remember? Right? Once you have selected your answers, let's review them together. Let's see how you did. Right? Okay. So now, question 1. The correct answer is B. Persona prompting. The prompt the prompt assigns the AI the role of an AWS solution architect. Which solution architect? The prompt assigns the AI the role of um, an AWS solution architect, which changes the style and the experience of the response. Question 2. The correct answer is few-shot prompting. Multiple examples are provided before asking the AI to perform a similar task. Question 3. The correct answer is chain of thought or step-by-step prompting. The prompt requests a clear explanation of the solution before the final answers. Question 4. The correct answer is iterative prompting. Rather than accepting the first response, the user improves the prompt and refine the output through follow-up instructions. Question 5. The correct answer is RTF framework, role, task, format. It's a simple, easy to remember and excellent starting point for the beginner. If you answer 4 or 5 questions correctly, you are building a solid foundation in the prompt engineering. If not, don't worry. Prompt engineering is a practical skill and every prompt you write helps you improve. So, before we wrap up, let's quickly review the most important lessons from today's episode. What are the key takeaways, right? So, today we have explored one of the most practical skills in generative AI. Let's recap these key ideas. Prompt engineering is the process of designing clear and effective prompts that helps AI generate better responses. We learned that better prompts produce better results. We explored the RTF framework, that is role, task, format, right? And we expanded this into the prompt blueprint and adding context, constraints, and example of more advanced prompts. We covered 6 essential prompting techniques, that is zero-shot prompting technique, or one-shot prompting technique, or few-shot prompting technique, chain of thought prompting technique, right? So persona prompting technique and iterative prompting technique. We also discussed common mistakes, best practices, troubleshooting strategies, and now and how professionals continuously improve prompts. The most important lesson is this: AI is only as effective as the instructions we provide. The better we communicate, the better the AI can assist us. Prompt engineering is not about memorizing template. It's about learning to communicate clearly and intentionally with AI. I hope this session has helped you to understand that prompt engineering is far more than simply asking questions. It's a valuable skill that improves you with practice. My advice is simple. Every time you use ChatGPT or Amazon Q or Claude or Gemini or any other AI assistants, don't settle for your first prompt. Refine it, add context, assign a role, specify the prompt format. Experiment with different the prompting techniques. The more you practice, the more powerful AI becomes as your personal assistant. In our next episode, we will explore another fascinating topic: hallucinations in generative AI. Why does AI sometimes generate confident but incorrect information? Can prompt engineering reduce hallucinations? And what techniques can we use to improve reliability? We will answer all these questions in next episode. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking the video, sharing it with others who are learning AI, and subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss future Knowledge Bytes episodes. Thank you once again for watching it.